Right, this is Si. Si is a
property investor, developer, one of the two.
Amazing. So people want to invest in property. You are here to help. I'm assuming you're doing some content at the moment to help people get into it, because a lot of people go, I tell you what I want to own a house to rent out. I think everyone just kind of gets sucked into this almost trap and they don't really know what they're doing. So you're trying to help people, is that right?
Yeah, exactly that. So we've got a few bits at the moment. We're either doing it for people or teaching people how to do it, so I'm building an online platform. And then we've got some bits on the Instagram, some real basic stuff. And probably what I've learned over the last 3 or 4 years is friends at the gym or whatever, like, you know, they'll come and ask and say, Side, where do I start? What do I do? I'm buying even my first resi house, like residential house, like where?
To let, I'm assuming, not personally.
No,
to
personal,
live in.
right,
to live
even
in.
to buy, like, where do I start? Like, how do I make the offer? What offer do I go in at? You know, like, and I suppose it's funny, is it, because everybody's going to, not everybody, but lots of people, everyone lives in a house. So and at some point, most people buy a house. But it's not something you do very often, and it's one of those things where people are probably scared to ask the question, right? So it's a conversation where you don't want to sound stupid, or you don't want to, I don't know what I'm doing here.
I think
but
people are they're scared of asking questions because they don't want to sound stupid.
Absolutely.
Especially if they're a successful businessman. I'm not afraid of asking any questions, so I would just pick your brains all day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly. And it's, there's always somebody that knows a little bit more, like there's people who are way smarter than I am, but like I do this on a daily basis, so I understand some of the pitfalls and some of it, but like solicitors will talk with all sorts of legal jargon, and estate agents will do the same, and sometimes it can throw you off a little bit. So I suppose
you're a sieve. You're a master sieve.
Yeah.
You sieve the shit.
And I suppose I'm sure my parents named me Simon because I like to simplify things or be a bit simple myself. But like I do like to simplify stuff and try and explain it in a way where, you know, you might understand, even if you've never done it before. And there are lots of terminologies within property. Certainly, like I say, if you're literally buying it to live in, or then if you go into the investment side of stuff, then there's legislation on lettings. There's ways to look and buy, and property it's not complicated or it's not difficult, but there are bits that you need to know, and it's certainly something that, you know, there's lots of cogs and parts of it that over time, you know, you could do with knowing to help you do it, and everything just takes time, right? That's the thing.
So how much do you need to start? Is there like a minimum? Let's say, for example, I've got £10,000 saved. Would your advice to me be save some more? You ideally need about this, or is there no minimum? What would you say?
It's a really great question. I suppose it's where you want to get to. It's your end goal at the end of the day. So we've all got different goals. Some's net cash flow from day one, some's pension, and what have you. So if you were to start, say, if you had £10,000, again, I'd ask you the question: are you looking to do property as a full-time venture, or are you looking
side project?
Yeah. Do you enjoy your day job? You love what you do. Like, would you want to do it on the side? You don't want to.
Yeah. Let's say I want to run it on the side. I've got a bit of money. How much do I need to start?
Yeah. So if you had the £10,000, I'd say probably invest in a bit of education, and learn.
Right.
So,
with yourself, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Send some money to you.
But there's lots of people that do it. There's lots of good people that I could recommend as well. But yeah, I'd always say learn a little bit, learn about where to look, so you're saving time, and you don't want to. You can make expensive mistakes in property, so you don't want to make those. I'd say as a minimum to sort of get going, you probably need about 40 grand, right?
40k.
Yeah, so, and obviously we were just talking before we started. We look in around Wakefield and areas. We're in a really nice or a good area in the north because you could get affordable property that rents well, you get good yields, you get a good return on investment, and the capital growth is still there. We've still got room to go, right? So in around Leeds, around Manchester, you know, Huddersfield, Wakefield, those commuter towns as well, we've got good investment. So 40 grand would probably get you a 100 grand house, 25 grand deposit, some fees, maybe a little bit of refurb, get you let out. And then, you know, you can leverage the rest using bank's money, if that makes sense. And then you can rinse and repeat. So you want to try and add value, refinance, and move on again. So I'd always say like minimum 40k, and then obviously upwards depends how much you want to do over time.
So in theory, once we've got the property, I'm assuming it's more of a long-term venture, this, and not a short-term one, because a lot of people want this something now, don't they? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I've got to save me 40 grand up, I've got to put it in a property, and at what point will I see any money back?
Yeah, so again, great question. I mean, well, here we are. We're in this society now of instant gratification, and actually the biggest rewards are delayed gratification. I heard a stat the other day. Warren Buffett, who's the richest guy in the world and one of the best investors, he made, I think, 80% of his wealth after he was 65. So, like, you think he made, granted, still a lot of money, about 3 billion up to 65. He's now worth about 150 billion. So that compounding effect over time and being in the game really makes you your money.
So stop thinking short term,
Stop
think
thinking
long
tomorrow.
term.
Yeah, and actually property you can get some income short term, right? So it's not like this is where I think it's great because there's two elements to it. You'd be getting a couple of hundred, £200, £300, £400 a month from your rental profit if you get the right deal. But in the meantime, you're getting 6, 7, 8% what we call capital growth, annual appreciation, that over time. So again, we use the example that there's a property. I've done some big deals that haven't always gone well. The best deals I've ever done are the little buy-to-lets, 100 grand. We jammed in some numbers the other day based on a couple of really simple and very achievable annual rates of return. That property will net you 250k in 10 years. So from a bit of rental income and capital growth, you'll make 250 grand over that time.
So is that with 40k down?
40k down.
40k has just earned me 250.
Absolutely. I mean, and you
After
can do
10 years.
To 10 years, so you can do the ROI on that.
What is the return on investment on that then?
I think it was a good few 100%.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay.
So over that, and again, you can, and obviously you say you've got your 40 grand that you've saved.
Yeah.
You know, you might have mum or dad that are retired, and they say, look, here's a little bit of early inheritance, or you've got friends or family that want to do, and you could give them a little bit of return on the money. There's creative ways of getting that money in.
I'm going to say, because not everyone has 40 grand kicking about.
No.
So if, for example, let's say Joe over here has 10 grand, I've got 10 grand, can you come up with like a bit of a solution that would benefit all of you, or would you recommend against something like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, would you say too many chefs in the kitchen is a bad idea?
Potentially.
Yeah.
So what you're talking there is what we call a joint venture.
Yeah.
Joint ventures are marriages.
Yeah,
so
okay, right, okay, so avoid them.
So
Yeah, avoid them,
yeah,
right, okay.
I would say, but certainly marriages have their pitfalls, don't they? And you wouldn't marry somebody after having a chat to them in the pub.
Yeah.
So you're going to sort of make sure you know them. But certainly there's ways of doing it without. So you could say to Joe, I'll give you 10% return on your money.
Okay.
Knowing that I'm probably going to make 15 or 20% return on that. And you
So
can
have a
sort of-
king, borrow money as a few, right, get you,
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. But so you advise going alone, borrow money, and then promise them a return on the
be
investment.
creative with that structure. Obviously, always do your due diligence on each other.
Yeah.
Have loan agreements in place. And there's lots of ways of doing this. This is what I try and teach and show, all these documents, whatever. They're all bits that, they're not rocket science, it's not complicated, but they're all bits that if you just have those in place, it'll stop you having a problem when there's either a disagreement or things don't always go right. But like I say, yeah, you could borrow from, friends, family, brother, whatever, Joe, your mates.
Yeah, and just promise it back within a set time frame.
But and also make it work for them. Give them a return on their money. So Joe, I'm going to give you 10% on that, which is more than you'll get in the bank.
Yeah.
I'm going to make money out of it. You're going to make money out of it.
We're all happy.
We're all happy. So, and I think that's the way of creating wins in all those scenarios. So yeah.
Perfect. So I'm assuming you have quite a lot of rentals at the moment.
Yes.
A fair few, yeah. Have you ever had a nightmare tenant?
Yeah, well, so funnily enough, it's actually my girlfriend's property that was probably the strangest one more recently. I've been really fortunate. I've always tried to do higher end properties. So we've had things called HMOs, which are houses of multiple occupancy, where you'd have 6 people that share a kitchen, but you didn't rent out each room.
So you'd get a bigger house and you'd let it to multiple people.
Absolutely.
Which is a better return on investment, I would assume.
Yeah,
but then there's a lot more moving pieces, so it's harder.
Exactly that. So traditionally a HMO is a student house where you'd have 5 individual rooms, everybody paying whatever, £70, £100 a week, and then they share the kitchen.
Okay.
Obviously, you can do that for professionals, especially in cities, the transient. So there's like I said, they come with a few of their problems. You've got a few more transient type living arrangements. They might have lived there for 6 or 12 months as they're finding the house themselves.
Yeah, because I'd always assume that'd be a quick turnaround. Like, I've been here for a year, uni, right, I've moved to a different hall, and I'd straight away think that's a bloody logistical nightmare.
Yeah, and it comes up with that. So like you say, you might get more net cash flow, ROI a month, but again, comes with hard
headache,
work,
yeah.
which is still why I love the buy-to-let model. We've got tenants that have been in 5, 6, 10 years.
Super simple.
Love that they treat the home like it's their own. You barely hear from them.
Yeah.
But one of the tenants recently, we actually we got a call from their girlfriend at the time saying, I can't remember his name actually, but Dave's not going to pay this month. He's in jail. He's an army Nick, and he'd been sent down for 3 years for looking at naughty stuff on the internet. So,
but hell, how naughty do you have to look at to go into prison?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I genuinely
like young children's stuff and
shit.
And actually, fully enough, then
you don't want him in fucking house, then, do you? Do you know what I mean? Jesus, that's next level.
She sent us the Yorkshire Post article,
oh, wow.
just a confirmation. Oh yeah, that is the tenant. He was a lovely fella. He always paid.
Wow.
So but then the knock-on of that was actually that his girlfriend was fairly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, what have you, and had a certain amount of rights to live there, even though she wasn't on the tenancy.
Oh, interesting. Really?
So she, and this is where we had to take some advice, and this is probably where I want to share my experiences.
Yeah, of course.
Is she couldn't afford the rent and had no intention of paying the rent. I think she said at one point, oh, I could give you a couple £100. And actually at that point we were advised not to take that money.
So how much was it supposed to be a month?
£600 a month.
And she basically said, well, I'm going to live there anyway. He's in prison. I don't earn any money.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it, pretty much?
Basically.
Oh,
So we started going through the process of eviction, which again is a long process.
Are we talking long as in a month, a week, a year?
Well, so this one, we because you didn't really technically have a tenancy, we applied for a certain section notice, which actually meant we could have got a 24-hour eviction.
Wow.
That on the back of that, though, then sometimes a judge, because it goes through the magistrate's court, looked at it and goes, now I'm going to refer this to court, so then that's 2 or 3 months down the line.
Wow.
In the meantime, and this is where probably the systems fails us, is the lady had gone to the council, to be fair to her, and said, I need a house, I'm vulnerable, I've not got a house, I can't afford one. And they said, okay, we will try and get you one, but there's not enough of them. Don't leave until you get your eviction notice, because we won't house you until you've got an eviction notice. Once you've got an eviction notice, we'll give you one.
So that property that should have been making X amount of profit, she's now a plug hole, and all your profit's going down free to her.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. So
because she's got some degree of rights.
Yeah, and I suppose there's an element of protection. Currently, like landlords are getting a bit of a battering at times, and we do get anybody that owns a rental property gets a bit of a bad name at times because we try to profit off stuff. But actually, what I'm trying to do is create better housing for people. So we're trying to find tied houses, do them up and give places people to live. Not everyone wants to buy a house, right? Not like you don't have to buy a house and be tied to a mortgage. Mortgage is French for death, right? So it's not always the most attractive.
Is that right? Mortgage is French for death.
Yeah. My para quoted that, but it's basically you're tied to that till death, right?
Makes sense, right?
So you're not. It's not always attractive to people. People don't want to have to sell the house or move out, or that they want to be able to rent or whatever that might be. And there's lots of options for it.
So is this lady still in there, by the way?
She's now gone. Actually, the council did find her a property. Funnily enough, she moved out on her own fruition 3 days before the court date, so we had to wait. So it took 6 months.
How much did that cost you personally then, out of the property? 3 months rent?
It was 6 months in total. So it depends how you look at it. Obviously, net profit, you're probably looking at a little bit less, but the mortgage on it is about £200 a month. So you're looking at £1,200 in mortgage payments.
But she was supposed to be paying how much a month? 600?
600, yeah.
So 600 over 6 months. So that was £3,600 you should have got, but didn't because of the legislation, the laws that are in place. So as a landlord doing residential property, there is certain things that put the tenant in a better position than the owner. Makes sense, because this is something that I find very interesting. I had a residential property with my brother, and it ended up turning into like a weed farm, and he got kicked out and all the rest of it. And there's all sorts of horror stories, but straight away it still seems to be this incredible thing to invest in with no stress and super easy. Is it easy?
No. And nothing worth doing in life is easy, right? So
you got it.
No one. I've always said this, and I said, my mum and dad at times have looked at investments where it's quick and easy, and it never is quick and easy, and it's sometimes costing. But I always say this: I quite like an autobiography, a Richard Branson or a Jeff Bezos type autobiography. But those books would be really rubbish if it was like, I bought a property and I got really rich overnight. They wouldn't exist. There's normally trials and tribulations for any successful people, and you've had some very good people on this podcast, and no one, I dare say, has ever said, it was a breeze, Ben.
Everyone says,
it's hard work. So, but also with it is that, like, I suppose we talk about that one nightmare tenant. But in the years that I've been doing it, you know, we probably had hundreds of tenants, right? So that is a small percentage.
Have you only had the one?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, pretty much.
Very lucky.
Yeah, like, again, like, we try and reference well, we try and have higher quality tenants. Two, I had one person that did trash a place because we asked him to leave because he was in arrears. And he did a little bit of damage there. But
On purpose, I would assume.
Yeah,
just smash the kitchen,
yeah.
which is then going to cost you more money.
Yeah,
so anything you might have made on him for the year, it's then less.
So whatever I do, whenever I'm working out a deal, I'll always factor in maintenance and voids.
Okay.
So we, you know, say, and funnily enough, and this is where the rental market's gone up. So lots of landlords have gone out of the rental market recently, certainly the residential one.
Is there a reason for that?
Section 24 tax has been a real big thing.
So go on then. So I've invested in a property, I'm earning X amount a year, whatever yield that might be 8% a year, whatever, right? What's that doing to me then?
So this was a sort of a bit of a historical thing. So prior to 2007, 2008, you were always told to buy a property in your own name.
Yes.
So you'd buy. So lots of landlords over time have bought property in their own name.
Yeah.
Mr. Osborne, I think it was actually a Labour legislation that he took on board, was then like, basically you can't claim mortgage payments as a tax relief. You know, that is almost income. So what that has meant is that, you know, if you're a higher earner taxpayer with property in your own name,
Yeah.
like, you are making no profit. You are making no profit. There's no way of offsetting any tax reductions for that. And you had a really good chap who probably explain this better than I do in terms of the tax work.
Yeah.
But what that's meant is there's lots of landlords there that have property in their own name that have sold and exited the market.
Instead of actually putting them into like some sort of group structure or company structure.
Yeah, you could move them, but there's costs of doing that, right? So if you sell from your personal name into a limited company,
Yeah,
you're still paying SDLT. It's still a sale and a transaction, so it's probably not worth it. And actually, you've probably got to the point where, we've made our money on his properties. We're going to sell that. We're going to get out the market.
Really?
Yeah.
So let's say I've got 3 residential buy-to-lets, and then this legislation comes in place. If I actually want to keep them, how much? Let's say each one is 200 grand, right?
Yeah.
I own them outright. How much is it going to cost me to actually put the structure in place where it's going to benefit me again? Do you know what I mean? If all of a sudden, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would I have to put them all into a company? I would assume.
Yeah, it would be more beneficial, obviously, depending on your personal tax position.
Yeah.
But again, if on a really simplistic basis, you move all 3 of those to a limited company, you're paying SDLT, which is at a 3% rate as well. So if it's
on the value of the house.
Yeah.
So 3% times by 200.
Yeah. So
just to put it.
Yeah, just to move that across. So that's the other thing. Like, again, the other thing that government has done is to buy a second home. Obviously, there's rates of SDLT, stamp duty, tax. So it's 0% under 250 grand. But no matter what, if it's your second home, it's a 3% charge on that. So, you know, straight away you're paying 6 grand to sell each property. You know, then there's probably some fees to move all that across. So straight away, those 3 properties that you've just talked about is, you know, you're probably talking 10 or 11 grand. So that's a few years profit, or what have you. So it might be more prudent just to sell them, you know, realise your profit. There's probably CGT on that, so capital gains tax on that as well.
When did this come in then?
It's actually just been, it's taken about 10 years to phase in. They've done it a little bit at a time, and I think it was last year actually was now 100% it's in law.
Wow.
So over that time, landlords have come out. The flip side of it all is, because there isn't enough rental stock, and the real simple economics, supply and demand,
Rents
have gone up. So the lady, funnily enough, the house that we've just spoken about where the ladies moved out, we've got 2 properties side by side there. Mm-hmm. One of them is currently being rented at 550. We haven't increased the rents over time. You can only increase them by a certain amount. But we put the other one back onto the open market. Mm-hmm. It's currently at £800.
Wow.
So that jump is, you know, like 600 before, now up to 800, like that, just £200 overnight a month, because the market dictates that. And
so is it a good time to jump in then?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And I certainly think so over the next 2 years is going to be, 2-3 years is great. So interest rates, lending rates are coming down again. So they've actually more came down this morning. So as you probably know, interest rates have gone up to curb inflation recently. And actually, lending rates have now come back down as there's been some good news. Inflation is slowing and wage increases still going up. So with that, and then so with the interest rates coming down, i.e. the amount that it costs to borrow, and then the rents going up, that margin's becoming more attractive. And I'm talking specifically about buy-to-lets. Within property, there are hundreds of strategies. You could rent out on Airbnb, you could do the HMO model that I've just spoken about, there's commercial units.
But just simple buy-to-let.
A simple buy-to-let, which for me, like, I suppose there's, you, in the property industry, in the property market, the sales pitch is always quit your job and become a property professional. I don't always think that's the greatest thing. I think there are lots of people that enjoy the jobs that just want a little bit of extra money or a bit more for their pension.
I think that's the most common thing. I think someone is in a good job, they just want to invest. Instead of leaving it in an ISA or a bank or whatever, they actually want to do it because they heard it was a good thing. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? But,
and I think it's about spreading your investments, right? You might have a little bit in an ISA.
Eggs in baskets.
You might have a little bit in a private pension or a pension, whatever. You might have a bit in property. You might have a little bit in stocks and shares, depends what you do with your ISA as well. But there's multiple ways of doing it, and it's spreading your risk, right? So I think that property side of stuff it's both scary because I could open an ISA tomorrow on a website like Vanguard, put 10 grand in and leave and forget it and just hope for the best. Property, there's a lot more cogs to turn and moving parts, but just because that's the case, sometimes that means it's a barrier to entry, and it might be a better long-term.
This is why you want to come in and help.
Absolutely. So, like I say, there's two elements to our business where I will literally go buy you a house. You might be, I don't want to learn, Simon. I am not interested in learning anything about it, but you just go do it for me. I trust you. I'll take a fee off you, but I'll buy the house effectively for you.
Is that a one-off fee then?
Yeah, per property. Yeah. So
right, wow.
On a simple buy-to-let, we might charge you £5,000, but we'll go find it, negotiate on it. Help you through the process. You're going to do a bit of paperwork as you're on the lending, get you to buy it, and then we'll let it out at the back end as well.
Wow.
And obviously what we're trying to do is always buy a little bit below market value, so we're trying to find the little diamonds in the rough. So at the moment we're making about 100 offers a week. We might only get 10 of those anywhere near accepted.
Wow.
There's a lot of no's.
Great that.
But yeah, like something where you just don't have to have a think about anything. And then obviously there might be the people that go, I don't want to pay you that. I might pay you £5,000 to learn, and I can do that over and over and over again. So and I suppose it's where people are in life, but people and how inclined people are to do it as well at the back end.
So it is a good time to do it. You just can't do it like you used to do it.
No, certainly not.
Pretty much. So when you, and let's say I'm going to learn, what's the first thing I learn? I can't buy it in my own name. I have to go through a business, I would assume.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's having to do. That's what you've done.
Yeah, again, right, yeah. If you're, unless, depending on your personal tax position, but most people now, to become a high rate taxpayer, £50,000 a year is that threshold.
You're going to have to be a higher rate taxpayer just to have 40 grand kicking about, unless, like you say, you've had someone pass, unfortunately, they've given you a bit in the will, then you're like, let's just buy an house with it. Instead of being a silly sausage and spending it at Selfridges or whatever, or buying a crazy car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
makes sense.
So getting the company structure or getting the limited company set up is a good place to start. Sort of a little bit of help with accountancy. Obviously getting your professional team part of it, but again, that's all part of what we do. We help people find those. I've kissed a few frogs. We've had a few solicitors that aren't great. As you probably know, there's professionals that you think are good but aren't actually as good as they say they are.
Absolutely.
And that's part of life. So we've learned our way through that process. So yeah, we've got people that you recommend and having a good mortgage broker. But yeah, where you start and understanding your tax position at the beginning makes things easier going forward in terms of what you can earn and out the back end of it. Then just like I say, a broad understanding. If you want to understand it, like I say, we do something for you. Is what interest rate, what lending rates could I get at the moment? Are they 4%, 5%? What are the arrangement fees? And then what rent could I get in the area? Like I say, we're looking at £800-900 for your sort of standard 2 or 3 bed in some 100 grand areas at the moment. Like that means you're probably making £300-400 on property. So we've talked about the long-term benefit of property, but you can also have that little short-term benefit of a few extra quid. Like I say, that for me, whatever the magic number of 4 is, that extra £1,200 a month. That's a decent couple of holidays a year, or whatever your why is. Like I know people have got them,
and it might be less risky than, let's say, cryptocurrency or whatever you want for the short term. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I suppose that's the thing, right? Stocks and shares, crypto, whatever that thing is. Property is so much more illiquid. So, and what I mean by that, stocks and shares can be bought and sold in a second in crypto. So it's really liquid. It can come in and out, which means that the prices can fluctuate on a dime.
Massively. Yeah.
Whereas property, because it's such a slow moving and so illiquid, it takes so long for a transaction to take place.
Yeah, you can't just have rug pulls.
You can't have it. And then obviously, like you might have a COVID event, or you might have a 08 event. 08 was slightly different than GSC, but like what you've got from there is you can probably see maybe what's coming,
and you can act accordingly.
Yeah, and you can sort of weave your way through it a little bit better. So you might sell a certain asset that's not performing or might not perform, and you might invest it into a different strategy within property. So again, diversifying yourself into that.
Do you ever do furnished apartments? Because I would always say this to people with property, residential, not commercial here. Let's say you've got a house, you've left the dishwasher and all the rest of it in, right? You've had, I don't know, £2,000 profit over the year, but then they come and blow the boiler up and it's not under warranty. Is it on them? Is it on you? What's going on from a rental point of view? Because that's just demolished all profits.
Yeah, potentially. So again, always have that back pocket saver fund in the thing. Like you say, try and get your boilers and your big stuff warranty, you know, and covered, and in any sort of, I think British Gas do something for £15 a month that means they'll come out and do that sort of stuff.
Brilliant.
But you're right. Residential, everything's on the landlord.
Right.
Commercial, very different. They're different types of lease. They're FRIs, which means that everything's on the tenant. So, commercial is a very good way of making money, and it's a lot once the tenant's in.
Yeah, they can't exactly do it.
Obviously, resi's slightly different. Like obviously. But the residential side of stuff, a lot of it's on you. But if you're just a little bit smart about it and maybe don't take all of the £500 profit,
put some barriers in place. So that's what you'd recommend to people. And I'm assuming you're going to teach this in your course. Always have like a little bit of a bank account ready for emergency funds, just in case that tenant decides to, I don't know, put a load of vinegar in washing machine and destroy it, or whatever, a load of soap bubbles, or you know what I mean.
You've got kids, Ben. They'll do it at your house or anything. You never know. They'll put a screwdriver in.
So when someone's asked here actually on Instagram, right, were there any surprise costs when you first got into it? Was there anything that was like, bloody hell, that's a bit of a joke? Do you know what I mean? Like when you first started, what was the one thing that kind of stood out?
There's a few. There's quite regularly you have to pay for the lender's fees, right? So you might get some borrowing from, say, HSBC, High Street Lender.
Yeah.
And there's
borrowed, how much have I borrowed? 150 grand.
Yeah, let's say 150 grand. Yeah. You'll have to pay their legal fees for organising the loan for you, a valuation fee, so they'll come out and value the property, but that's on you, not on them. And then sometimes there's an arrangement fee on that as well. So
what we're talking here then? So what extra money is that equating to, do you think?
There could be 3 or 4 grand to start with on 100 grand, and obviously that goes up the bigger the deal. So you know, like we've built houses and bought land for 3, 4, 500,000. You know, we've bought HMOs, like you say, 3, 4, 500,000. Those fees are obviously like a percentage of stuff, so they do increase. So if you don't watch out for them, we're actually buying a HMO for a client who lives in Dubai at the moment, and he's got a bit frustrated with probably the lack of clarity on some of the fees that the brokers put. So there are
hidden fees, basically. That's what it said. Hidden fees on things like the bank's end, not
and it's probably not. It's always on the stuff, like you said. It's almost like everybody's doing you a favour when you're buying something. Like, so if someone's lending you money, like, oh, we're doing you a favour, which I don't always say because
you're paying the interest on it.
Yeah, there's winners and losers. There's winners in both ends. But the fees that you'd probably have to pay the other side is always
the shock to the system.
Yeah.
At what stage did you give up your job to solely rely on property, or have you not given up your job?
Yeah, great question. Probably a little bit too soon, actually.
Oh, really?
So there's two answers to this question. So I got into property probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and actually this is obviously how we met when I had the restaurant.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to make some money, don't open a restaurant.
Yeah.
So I had a restaurant in Huddersfield at the time. I realised it probably wasn't going to create the life that I wanted to create. So I started pivoting and looking into property. So that was the first part of it. We closed that restaurant. I probably was a bit too soon into property. I did it for maybe a month or two, realised I still need a little bit more income. Mm-hmm. Then I worked for my brother-in-law, actually, project managing on big building sites. So I did a couple of big builds in Manchester, which was really good experience.
I was going to say, I bet you learnt a lot from that.
A 600 unit student apartment and a 200 unit hotel.
Wow.
Like massive things for big tier 1 contractors, and that gave me some really good experience. But again, juggling the 2 jobs, this was through COVID as well. The COVID didn't shut down the building industry, so I didn't really see much in COVID other than I couldn't go get me coffee at lunchtime because they shut the cafes. But I probably should have. Actually, it's my advice to a lot of people that ask me is, if you do want to be a property professional or anything, stay in it for as long as you can. I think.
So stay in your current job. Until
make it really uncomfortable. Make it really uncomfortable. Till you're probably 2 or 3 grand a month earnings past where you want to be. I think people think, oh, I'm only £1,000 away, I'll quit, and then there might be something that goes wrong, and you just have that, and
so give yourself a cushion, like a comfort barrier. That's what you're saying.
I'd say.
Right.
And actually,
so don't quit your job until you are absolutely laughing.
Yeah, and that goes the same for anything. Obviously, we're talking about property today, but any side hustle or any new venture that you want to do, if you want to open a gym or if you want to open any other business, a cafe, stay in that employment for as long as you can, because. And it's uncomfortable, but what's 1 or 2 or 3 years?
If you've already been doing it for a long time, it makes sense.
Make it hard. It will be worth it. Yeah.
Someone's asked, can you talk about bridging loans to help get into property developing?
Yeah. Okay. So bridging loans are, I suppose, what they say on the tin. It's a bridge between 2 types of finance. So we'll use the £100,000 house as an example again, but that house might need some renovation work. And what you're trying to do is you'll do a little bit of work, and actually what you want is the end value to be a lot higher. So I might do 20 grand's worth of work, house might be worth 150 grand.
Okay.
In that interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow what you call a bridging finance, which is for that purpose. It's very short term, slightly higher interest.
A year, 6 months, what we're talking?
Yeah, you can get them 6, 12, 18. Probably.
Okay.
Probably not much more than 18.
Right.
So again, another one of those. Say you think it's going to take you 12 months, get an 18-month term.
Get you.
Because the fees at the exit can be quite expensive.
Yeah.
And they'll pay you on that. Sometimes they'll help you pay for the refurb as well. So you can draw down on that bridging finance for the refurb. So I'm talking very small, really, in the grand series property at 100 grand. You might do it to do up a 10-bed HMO, which might cost you £200,000 to renovate. Mm-hmm. So that bridging finance, you draw down and pay interest on the debt as you do it. So, but bridging is a really handy way of
getting a project done if you don't have excess liquid.
Exactly that.
So if I've spent my 40 grand buying the damned house and not actually have enough to do it up, I'm potentially getting a bridging loan for 20 grand just to do it up so it can get going.
So you could get the bridge for. So what you'd do is you'd put your 25% deposit, because that's the other side of the point towards. You've got to put when you're buying a residential property for yourself, you only need to put 10% down. When you're buying an investment property, it's 25%,
which is what you have to do now, basically, if you're getting into property.
And that's what the banks are just trying to create. They're trying to have some headroom. So if things go wrong, they're still okay. 20 years ago, you could buy 100%. Northern Rock were even doing 110% mortgages, so they'd give you a little bit extra to do the house up.
Wow.
Obviously, if prices go down, then you owe the bank a lot of money, and that's where things go wrong. So the bridge might be that they lend you 75,000, you put your 25,000 in, and then they give you the 20 grand for the refurb. You put that all in together, you buy the property and you do it up, and then at the end of it you get £150,000. Hopefully it's worth that if you've done all your maths right, and that's what we try and teach, is like how to do the maths and how to work that out. And then what you put onto what we call term finance, which is a bit more of a longer term product, lower rates. So that might be from NatWest to companies called Kent Reliance, which are sort of more challenger banks that are not on the high street. Mm-hmm. They'd pay off that bridging finance for you, and then you just pay, NatWest or HSBC over term. So bridging finance is exactly what it says on the tin. A bridge to do, and actually, I use a company, a software we partner with called Landlord. So actually, we can put all the details of the purchase onto there. Landlord have their own bridging section, right? They lend their own money, so they can literally give you decisions in 24 hours, and it tends to be a lot quicker than a term finance thing as well. So they can give you the decision, go through the process. You can probably get the money in a month, so they can work on auction purchases when you've only got 28 days to buy. But there's lots of ways of getting bridge.
That'd be quite an interesting thing to do, is actually buy a property using your services, and then everyone can learn.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That might actually be quite an excessive lesson to be learned. You know, a lot of money, but I would find that fascinating. Learning the ins and outs.
Document your way through that, I suppose.
Well, this is it. This is it. So, in a nutshell, it isn't easy. Long term, not short term. And if you want no headache, pay you do it for you.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I couldn't summarise it much better. But yeah, I suppose I've got 2 of the guys in my team.
Yeah.
We've got 30 years of experience in property. One of my mates, another side, he's worked in auctions for 10 years. The other guy, Jake, he's worked in lettings, he's managed 600 properties in the past. So like anything and anywhere, like people are paying for your experience. Like if I want to get PT'd, I'm paying for your experience and being in the industry for 20 years and doing what you do. Like that's the same in property. You're paying for our experience and taking them headaches away. Like I say, anyone could go do it. Like I swear, anyone could do it. I am not.
There's YouTube videos. There's all this self. If you've got the time, the determination, the graft, you can do it.
Yeah, and if you're okay with making the odd mistake that might cost you £5,000 or 10 grand, crack on. And I'd be that. But obviously, we're there to stop that. But like I say, longer term mentality, slow and steady, chip away. And hey, look, if you can raise or you have got a lot of capital, you could buy 10 in a year. There's nothing stopping you. You just need the capital, the money to be able to do that. Obviously, if you're just on the side and want to create that extra income and something for your kids or something for yourself, like that. For me, looking at it all, and I've got friends that are really good investors that invest in lots of stuff, but property is still their main sole focus. And I think maybe there's a stat, and someone could probably dig it out, but maybe 90% of the richest people in the world own property to invest in as well. So even if you made money on whatever that might be, they still then invest that in property as well. So it's clearly something that's done globally, and we all need somewhere to live, and certainly in the UK it's a tiny island. We're not sticking any more land in. So and we're living longer and reproducing more, so that the demand for housing will always be there. We're down on rent. We're not building enough houses anymore. We're way down. The red tape is really difficult. So there's going to be a demand for it.
So look out for plenty more content on your Instagram soon, and the courses that should be available soon.
Yeah, absolutely. The course should be done in probably the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks. I've got a few mentorship bits that are available now. The stuff on the Instagram and on there is just general basic stuff to help. And,
Perfect.
Anything. Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you very much for your time, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.